But we are going to move now to the UAW strike, which is in its second week, moving toward its third. We want to get you caught up on the latest negotiations. Rod Maloney is live for us, and he's going to get us up to date. Hey, Rod, where are you headed right now? You're in transit.
Yeah, I'm in transit. We're going over to the Wayne Assembly Plant where we were yesterday for much of the day, looking to speak to some of the line workers now about the fact that they're getting their first check. Now, we did discuss this with workers yesterday about them getting their checks today, the first $500 strike pay checks, but they're all admitting that $500 doesn't get you where you need to be. Most of the UAW workers, particularly the veterans, know that they need to have some savings set aside so that if and when they end up on strike, they're going to be okay. Some may not have done that. And of course, you won't get a lot of people admitting to that. But this is when the rubber meets the road, right? I mean, when the strike starts, everybody's enthusiastic. But now you're looking at that first week without the big paycheck, you only get the $500. It kind of tests the solidarity, as it were, that they so much talk about on these picket lines. So as it stands right now, there are about 19,000 UAW members who are on the picket line, and it's the first 13,000 who will actually get their first strike check. You may not know this, but it takes 8 work days for you to actually see that first check from the union strike fund. And so that's where we are today. Now, as it stands in terms of the negotiations, General Motors is in fact meeting with the UAW at Solidarity House. That's where we were at noon, but we have to go out and get some interviews here now, so that's why we're leaving. And so that is a good sign to the extent that they're at least talking. They're exchanging information. All 3 companies continue to have their negotiations. One of the things that was a bit surprising yesterday in our opportunity to speak to Shawn Fain right after his visit with the president was that he said that it looks to him like the Ford talks have kind of slowed down to a point where he was a little surprised and I think in many ways disappointed with that. But, you know, it's a tough slog, these kinds of contract negotiations. He intimated that part of the issue with Ford could be that Marshall plant, that battery plant they were trying to build, Ford decided on Monday that they were going to stop that build. $3.5 billion plant. They got public money, the state money to help work on that. And they've now put a hold on that particular plant. Fain was deeply disappointed, not only in the announcement, but the fact that his workers, his UAW workers, won't have any part in that particular contract, in that particular joint venture that they're doing. So that's where things stand. I mean, it sounds like we're kind of in a bit of an impasse here, trying to get things moving. And when that happens, of course, Shawn Fain has always promised that if he needs to, he'll turn up the pressure. And so it sort of begins that process of, okay, what's to come next? What's the next move? And when will that happen? So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Did he say anything, Rod, about former President Trump's visit tonight and also President Biden's visit yesterday? Was that supportive for him, a distraction for him, or did he mention that at all?
Well, we did discuss it at length, actually. And what he said was that he felt that the president's visit was a big deal. He said, look, it's historic. You don't get a president out on a picket line. But that's what he did yesterday. Now, however short the visit was, the president was on the ground for maybe a half hour. But the point is that the union can hold up that picture of them standing there with the president. We talked to the people who were on that in that picture with him. They were all very excited. They felt it invigorated them, and they believe, and there is some belief that by having the president's attention on this, that it sort of helps the companies understand that, look, we need to come to an agreement here. Everybody's watching. There's pressure on here. Let's get something done. We did talk to other people, though, who believe that the president's visit really is immaterial to the talks. And in fact, Shawn Fain has said that really, and the companies have said, it's going to be Ford, GM, Stellantis, and the UAW working this thing out. The president probably won't be getting directly involved. And he was trying to send some of his emissaries here to get involved, but the UAW said, no, we're fine. We don't need that right now. So that's what he said on that side. When it comes to Donald Trump, Shawn Fain is no fan. He's made it abundantly clear about that. He said essentially that Donald Trump, interestingly enough, is going to be speaking at a non-union facility And he said, that's all you really need to know about this. And he's railed against the billionaire class. He said, we can't be electing billionaires as president. He says they don't understand what it is to live paycheck to paycheck. And so he doesn't think much of the former president's visit in that regard. And he said as much. In fact, at noontime on Local 4, we had a soundbite with him addressing specifically that point.
All right, Rod Maloney, you're heading down to Wayne. We appreciate it, and we'll check back in with you. Local 4 News at 4, 5, and 6 tonight. We'll see you a bit later. All right, as Rod was saying, and we covered for you yesterday, President Biden did visit the GM Willow Run redistribution plant, visiting workers for just about 15 minutes along the picket lines, and that is a first for a sitting president. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
Wall Street didn't build the country. The middle class built the country. The unions built the middle class. That's a fact. So let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now.
And the politics on this one are definitely interesting. So join me now is Dave Dulio. He's Oakland University professor of poli-sci and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, it's always good to see you.
Hey, Christy, good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about former President Trump's visit here to Michigan, the significance of it, and how you're seeing this measure up when he's looking towards 24.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly significant. The 24 presidential cycle here in Michigan with it seems like a general election battle is already underway with dueling appearances by the front-running candidates. But I think you're going to see former President Trump, come here tonight and talk about his record. I think you're going to see him talk about and really reprise his 2016 campaign when he came and talked to workers in Macomb County about getting out of NAFTA and getting out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, both of which he did. I think he'll talk quite a bit about renegotiating NAFTA and passing the USMCA. He, as you know very well, he came here and talked to many of those voters that are on the picket line about, hey, the trade deals are bad. We need to shore up manufacturing, and I think he's going to talk about his record.
What's so interesting about this that everyone is talking about is usually you see Democrats and labor aligned. But to be able to have former President Trump come in here as well, both of them courting the worker, not necessarily the union. I mean, I think you'll hear former President Trump be very firm on that. And Sean Fain is no fan, as you heard Rod Maloney say, but both courting the worker.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that President Trump, when he ran in 16 and in 20, demonstrated that he can attract a large number of those votes. The proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, he came here in 2016 when he campaigned and talked to folks and got them to take notice, right? He communicated with voters with a message that they hadn't heard in a long time, certainly by a Republican president or presidential candidate, I should say. I also think it's worth noting, and it's fascinating, really, to think back to the 2016 primary campaigns. The message that Donald Trump brought to Macomb County and other places in Michigan, and frankly in other states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, was not all that different from what Bernie Sanders was pitching. A big focus on trade and keeping those manufacturing jobs here.
So tonight is actually a Republican primary debate that, of course, the former president has declined to go to. It's the second one. Do you think that he's getting traction with these events that he's creating for himself? And what does this do for the rest of the Republican field who's just watching him? And he is the front runner right now.
He most certainly is the front runner. And I think that he remains the king of earned media, right? I mean, he is a master at these sorts of things. It is totally planned that he's going to come to Michigan during this strike on the day and during the time of the second Republican primary debate, right? He's counter programming, and he's taking a lot of attention away from those candidates. It's if I'm a candidate on that stage tonight, I'm deeply frustrated that I'm not being able to communicate to voters that I need during this presidential primary race. And I think that Trump just continues to dominate in terms of eyeballs on screens and attention in the press. Just look at the numbers that he got when he counter-programmed the first Republican primary debate when he went on Twitter with Tucker Carlson, right? So many more people watched that than they did that debate stage.
And President Biden's visit here yesterday as well he's walking a fine line too, because he does support labor, and he's made no secret of that. He's made a career out of it, but also he does have progressive left who wants that EV technology, and that is also a little bit of a clash there with supporters. But actually appearing on a picket line, is there any caution for him in making that step that he did yesterday?
I think there actually is. I think that the president is trying to walk a very fine line here in the negotiations, right? He's not formally involved. His team isn't formally involved, but boy, he seemed to really go all in with the workers yesterday. Which, if he's going to be the most pro-union president this country's ever seen, which is he's fond of saying, that's not a surprise. But if if this drags on and on and on to the point where the union is negotiating for those expanded wages that he seemed to support yesterday, well, that now becomes more of a problem for him. And if it continues on and the impact on the economy throws the U.S. economy or even the Michigan economy into recession, now he's got a big problem on his hands. That is the last thing any president wants when they're running for re-election.
And in this battleground state moving into 24. All right, Dave Giulio, professor of political science at Oakland University. It's always good to see you. We're going to have you back again, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Christy.
All right, we'll see you soon.